Well, thanks for joining again today and our series of webinars. Simple Ministry is really attempting to help equip small churches, mid-sized churches, obviously churches of any size, just to have tools, resources, and understand a lot of the complexities be made more simple if you have the right people to come around you to help you. And today we're very excited to have Tonya Miller. She's a sales manager with Ministry Works. And then also Michael Campbell, who's been helping to kind of co-host a series of these seminars or webinars. And he's the president of Ministry Sure. So Tonya, thanks for jumping on today. Just welcome, anything you'd like to say. And then of course, Michael.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and very honored to be asked to do this and looking forward to sharing with you what we do to help come alongside the church and shoulder the payroll tax burden because we all know you have other things to focus on and you're not wanting to worry about your taxes and if you're doing things correctly. You just want to have that peace of mind and have some support, which sometimes is really hard to find. So we're a great solution for that, and we'd love to partner with you. So thank you for this opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fun. Once again, thanks, Rodney. It's fun to co-host with you. Michael Campbell, Ministry Sure, president. We help ministries with risk management solutions and insurance solutions, and just look forward to having this chat and helping ministries know a bit more about some of the pitfalls related to payroll.
So, being Simple Ministry, I'm the CEO of it, and we just really want to be as I said, a resource and solution with over 35 years of ministry in my background, and then the last 11 or 12 working in the corporate and the ministry world. I've been able to see things from a couple of different angles, from the pastor side, from a staff side, and now from a church member side as well, and from a business side. So I understand there's a lot of things that small churches think that they either A, cannot afford, or B, probably does not apply to us because we're this, one staff, pastor only, or two, three staff, or whatever. And so I'm really glad, Tonya, today to kind of help you take out that mystification, if you will, of showing us how you can really help. So payroll made simple. That's what we're talking about today. So Tonya, I know you have some slides and some things. If you want to share screen or whatever you want to do today, you're the expert in the room, so help us and let's talk about that.
Well, I'd be happy to. Bear with me while I connect us here. Um, What I'd like to do is just kind of give you a little background. We started payroll here at Brotherhood. We are a part of Brotherhood, a subsidiary of Brotherhood Mutual, who's been serving the church for over 100 years
Mhm.
with property, casualty, and liability insurance. But this is the payroll side that I work under, and we really are more of the HR admin support for churches of multi sizes. So we really want to come alongside and help shoulder that payroll tax burden. As I mentioned, help you be able to spend most of your time on ministry where God's called you to anyway, and let us help you do the heavy lifting on the payroll and payroll tax side. Our really goal is really to keep it simple, as Dr. Rodney mentioned, and also save you time, but we're also quite affordable with our pricing structure, so that you can save money. Sometimes you may be outsourcing. Not everyone can afford to outsource. Some are outsourcing, paying too much, or some are outsourcing and maybe not getting the help that they need regarding the minister's unique tax needs. So we can help you in all of those areas, and we love it when we can save someone money because we understand you're working with tithe money, and that's very sacred, very important that you're a good steward of that, and we understand that. And I'm really proud to say that Brotherhood and the pricing committee has really, they take that to heart, and we are quite affordable. Um, Wow, I don't know if I can quote the pricing, but if you go to ministryworks.com, there's a sliding calculator that I can pop to a slide in a minute about that, but you can get a quick quote or request a quote there. I don't want to sell you here, just more inform you of the convenience of the website. But our goal is to really get it right. I would say two of the big banners that we like to fly our personal service and ministry expertise because we do assign a dedicated payroll specialist to your account. So you'll always know who to call or email if you have a question or a concern, need some special assistance or training, even on the system. We're here to help you with that. But then for that small church that you mentioned with just the pastor on payroll, they might be a set salary situation, and we could set it up to auto run so that, they get paid once a week or once a month or somewhere in between. On that schedule, we can have it scheduled just to automatically run payroll so that it's more hands-free for you, and you really just need to reach out if there's a raise or a bonus or something unusual that's happening. They need to change their withholdings or something. But otherwise, you just can count on it happening. So let me bump over here and let you know a little bit of why payroll is complicated. And forgive me if you're a master and already know this, it might be too simplistic for you. But for those of us who might be new to payroll, I just want to mention the minister is a very unique employee classification code. They have a dual tax status. Some do believe that they are self-employed, but they're really an employee of the church for federal and sometimes state, depending where you live and work. And so our team is very well versed in all of the states because we are nationwide. And during the onboarding time, we take care to really evaluate what you're doing now, let you know if anything looks out of compliance or amiss, and we'll give you the backing behind the reason for making a change so that you can make an educated decision on how to be compliant. So our onboarding is really important, and that's a key component with every new client. You're filtered through our implementation team is what we call them, but they're really just going to take in how you're doing payroll now, let you know if there's something you're missing or maybe pastors handled incorrectly, because they do fall under the SECA rules rather than the FICA rules. So you should not be withholding FICA directly from pastors' pay, for example. But our team will help you with that, get that set up properly. And then they also understand how to handle that housing allowance, which is a great benefit. It's really the largest tax benefit for being a clergy for tax purposes. Having that tax-free housing allowance, at least in most states, it's tax-free, but our team will help you know and navigate through that.
And if I
So,
could stop right there,
mhm,
just make a quick
yes.
statement because I've seen this happen and we work with churches. So a lot of people misunderstand what a housing allowance is, but a lot
Mhm,
of times what I felt, and I feel like someone like you or your company can help. If I'm a pastor, even if I understand it, oftentimes my board or the people around me
mhm,
don't. And I'm trying to explain to them something that seems self-serving, which is really not going to, it's going to benefit all of us. And so
mhm,
having a third party with some credibility and understanding coming
mhm.
alongside to explain that sometimes to your board could be very beneficial.
Oh, that's such a good point. I really appreciate you saying that. And we really try to be proactive with the education piece because when my team sends you the proposal, and that's a free quote, no obligation quote, when you receive that, it's not just going to be the pricing sheet. It's going to be the pricing, but it will detail out what's included. Um, and then it will also give you resources about clergy payroll so that you have a nice full color presentation that you could, put up on the screen or email to your board of director board so that they can really evaluate how it should be done and you have that backing because we do understand that that can be a challenge is getting everyone on board. Because even if you're using another payroll provider, for example, you may have been doing it one way for 20 years and not knowing that it's different or incorrect. And so that's part of what we do is being able to support that, the reason behind why we're making the suggestion to handle pastor that and housing that way.
Tanya, if I could jump in, one of
Mhm.
the things that I'm also seeing from time to time is mistakes payroll companies make when it comes to classifying employees, which
Yes.
then creates issues on the workers' comp audits and things like that. And I imagine repetitions help. So coming from a ministry standpoint, minimizing those types of mistakes, can you talk to us about some of the things that you guys do to help make the workers' comp audit process a little bit simpler?
Yes, yes. Well, we do couple payroll and workers' comp together so you can automate those premium payments with each payroll. And that is based off of your employee classification codes um, and does line up in what you're talking about, Michael. Good, very good point. So our team will help with that and help facilitate that. Again, a lot happens on the onboarding side as you're going to be entering in each employee. If you have, let's say, 40, 50 employees, even 30, we have an Excel option, so you don't have to key everyone in. But if you just have a handful of employees, keying them in is a great exercise. It kind of gives you that exposure of how are we doing it now? You're telling us, and then we're going to have that conversation with you and our implementation specialist that's going to be able to speak into that. And, you can have that conversation about your custodial worker. Should they be a 1099 or a W-2 employee? And workers' comp falls into that as well. We do rely on you as an agent, Michael, though, to give your advice on your end. And we really try to marry those two together from the payroll and the agent standpoint to be able to provide a good audit, a good recommendation on the premiums that are paid. It's based off of a calculation that I'm not able to say. I'm not an actuary, but there's a calculation that does figure your premium based off of the employee ED codes and the risk level. So then the goal is you'll be able to have those premiums taken out with each payroll. So it is hands-free. And then when it comes time at the end of your workers' comp policy period for that audit, you will still receive the workers' comp audit, but it's going to come populated with your payroll data. So it's going to be a lot easier. You should look at it just out of accountability on our part. So please do look at that, review it. If you have anything outside of payroll, such as an independent contractor that you pay, we do want you to tell us that so we can make that addition. Otherwise, it is a passive audit. If everything looks good, you don't need to reply back. But so it just does help automate and streamline things. And hopefully that relieves a lot of stress from having to compile the workers' comp audit yourself.
Would you talk to us a little bit about what it looks like when you know, take over from a different payroll
Mm.
provider and some things that you've noticed from your experience that frankly might have put the church at risk from an audit, from a compliance standpoint?
Yes. Wow. The the best example I have happened a couple of years ago, but it was so surprising and a little shocking that I do want to share it because we were helping a larger client on board. They maybe had 40 or 50 employees, and they were using another payroll provider for years. As I mentioned before, that happens. And so our implementation team realized that they were withholding FUTA, which is federal unemployment tax, unnecessarily from an employee or two or maybe multiple employees' accounts and from their payroll. And our tax team was able to go back and refile and recoup $30,000 in overpaid taxes or unnecessarily paid taxes, which was so huge for that organization. They were shocked and so blessed by that. And I love to tell that story because it shows on both ends the care our implementation team takes with onboarding you as a new client, but also how our tax team steps in and will advocate for you, make those filings, and help you get get above board and more accurate with your tax filings. So.
Rodney, we can't hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Mhm,
So from a church that has maybe 1 to 5 payroll, something like that,
mhm.
what would you say would be some of the common mistakes that you see that they're making unintentionally, of course, but help them think through that.
If you have 1 to 5 employees, often you'll have at least one pastor, or sometimes when there's one, the pastor's not getting paid, and they're not going to, y- so they're not even going to be on payroll. So you might have that as well. But either way, you're really going to have us take a look at everything. You're going to run us through the implementation process. Excuse me, I was having a little slide trouble there. Got a little flustered. Sorry about that. But the 1 to 5 employee, really, I really feel like they often have the most questions
Hmm.
because Aunt Aunt Betty might have been doing payroll the same way for 20 years, and then she's stepping down or retiring or moving to Florida for retirement, and somebody else is stepping in, and they might just be good at numbers, but they've never really handled payroll. So they're coming in really cold and not being coming with a background in accounting. And so we find we're really explaining housing allowance, the pastor's dual tax status, and really how to handle withholdings and deductions from the bottom up. And so that's why in our proposal, we do try to educate a lot. Um,
Kind of
that's
a
what we
follow-up
found.
to that, uh, maybe a follow-up to that question, and I'm not trying to set you up. So this may not be an answer that you have. I don't know, but how would you approach if I'm a bivocational pastor?
Well, it is up to the individual to a certain extent, to make some decisions, because if you're bivocational, you may have your withholding set so that you handle it differently than someone who's not bivocational, who's they're just the full-time pastor at a church. Or there's sometimes you have to look at what the wife is doing. Maybe they are also working and insured or withholding certain things, part of retirement, Social Security, for example. So there are different situations, and we'll kind of learn that from the client and be able to recommend. We are limited on giving tax advice, though, to a certain level. There are times where there's gray area in the tax codes, and we do have to recommend they talk to a tax accountant or tax professional about certain items, because it is ultimately their decision of how they want to handle and manage things on a personal level. That brings up a point. We don't handle the personal taxes for pastor or the personal tax return for the church as an EIN, but we handle all things payroll and payroll tax. So all local, state, and federal tax filings, we'll calculate and file those. We'll file quarterly 941s and prepare the W-2s and W-3 at the end of the year. We do also report new hires to the state as you add staff, and can facilitate time and attendance through our automated time tracking system within our platform, and even house your personnel files and facilitate your open enrollment if you're hiring through the system, which is a really nice efficiency gain.
So, Tanya, one of the things that there's a lot of sticky situations when it comes to payroll services and how small churches operate. I've seen situations where the youth pastor is 20 hours as the pastor and 20 hours as the janitor. So, how do you walk that individual through a situation where there might even be co-employment's not like dual roles, and where do work alongside, the brotherhood work comp side to kind of allocate salaries. What does that look like on your end?
Yes, well, having Ministry Works Assist is going to be a lot more efficient in that regard than if you're doing it just out of your office at the church, outside of an organized system. We'll be able to identify the pay rate and the job classification codes and be able to keep that organized. If you're using time and attendance, it's actually great. You can use the mobile app and toggle between your jobs and clock in and out if you're hourly. But you could use it that way to identify and differentiate your roles and your time allocation, even if you're a salary, if that's how you'd like to handle it. But that's going to flow then through payroll. Now, if someone doesn't want to pay that extra $4 per employee per month for time and attendance, that's their choice, and you can always key in those hours. We can have it organized by employee. Say you have multiple jobs, Michael, you'll be able to have, well, the payroll administrator would be able to log 20 hours for this role or 20 for that and have pay rates follow suit all through payroll. What's nice is your paycheck stub's going to differentiate that. We can have it titled accordingly, so you'll be able to see that, and then on your W-2 as well, which is nice.
I am kind of curious at a high level because there's a lot of things, you have a lot of competition
Mhm.
with different payroll providers and things like that that have different types of offerings. Some of them will throw in, well, we're also going to be the employer of record or the PEO. And, we've cautioned a lot of ministries from entering into those dual employment situations. And I'm just kind of curious, from your perspective, do you have anything to sort of, add to that? Is there anything that you might have concerns if from being like how do I say this? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
For someone coming from a PEO situation or trying to make that decision.
Can I ask a question as the
Yes.
guy who doesn't know anything here? What is PEO? Help us know that.
It's a professional employment organizations.
Thank you. Okay. So for all you pastors listening, I'm on your side. I'm trying to help you understand
Sorry.
their lingo. These are smart people talking lingo that we may not work on all of it. But go ahead. I apologize.
Perfect. No, I've seen both situations. I've seen people say, we're with a PEO, we don't want to change, we have everything coupled together. Often those are very large organizations with a lot of structure built out and have really made a corporate decision to do that and can afford to do all of that. But I've also talked with those who are in PEOs that are trying to decouple from that and are getting a payroll quote from me and working with Candace on employee benefits here in our office and trying to marry those things together, but be more in control over their um, benefits and packages that they can offer to their team. And so it really is a personal decision, a board decision on how you want to approach that. With a PEO, you'll find what, by definition, that the company that you're hiring actually is the employer of your employees. Like the ownership shifts to the PEO rather than the church. So that brings some legal things that I'm not in that realm. I'm not in that world,
Well,
so I can't speak to that directly, but it does carry a little different weight. And that's why I said it is a corporate or a board decision to really move to a PEO situation. So we are not a PEO. We're trying to be that ministry specialized payroll solution and HR solution. Now we also are working with Safe Hiring Solutions, Ministry Defender Solutions, excuse me, on background screenings and so forth. And so we're always looking for ways we can come alongside the church and help shoulder any burden when it comes to admin. We really want to be the solution for the people. And Brotherhood, our corporate entity, is really the steeple protection with the property casualty and liability insurance.
I was going to say here too, maybe if I could just speak to the church or the pastor for just a moment.
Mhm.
We often can tend to, we're all tight on budgets. I know how pastors are in churches. And so we can look at it and think, well, I have someone who volunteers or part-time or can help or do some of these things. And that may be well uh, thought out and done. But what we do know is these regulations and all these things are changing so rapidly. I don't think it's even fair to a person to put them in that situation to volunteer to help out with our church payroll because they can't keep up with all these things. And so, possibly you may not, unless you think it all the way through here, you actually may be saving money by getting someone who can do it quicker, more efficiently, understands everything, and can turn it around. So that's one thing. A second thing I would note here is we use the term Aunt Betty. Okay, well, it could be anyone, but that's typical in a small church. Someone does this, and we're not downplaying them. We're thankful for them. But here's the point. What if Aunt Betty unknowingly does it wrong and messes it up? We've got an issue. And the problem is she was there before you were, the pastor probably, or she's highly connected. And when you've got to deal with a sensitive situation, it's harder to do that in that type of person than it is to call, and say to you guys, hey, this got to be fixed. This is business. This got to be fixed. And that's where ministry works, or obviously, ministry sure can help with that. So my follow-up question to that was, and I'll turn it back over to you, and I think I know the answer to this, but I want to clarify it for everybody. Obviously, you guys want us to go to you if you're a church and, hey, Brotherhood Mutual or Ministry Shirt, all that. But what if we only need payroll? Can you do that as well, just for that and not everything else?
We can. They're separate decisions. You don't have to be insured with Brotherhood to participate with payroll. And so that can be a decision made separately. It happens all of the time. But if someone is looking for workers' comp, we can
Yeah.
go to Michael and add that in, for example, because it does kind of marry very well together. But that's your choice as well. So yes, you can make an independent payroll decision. Or often folks need to stagger these decisions because you can't decide everything and make every change all at the same time. It's just not humanly possible, especially if there's just a couple of people in the office. So while you're trying to do ministry. So we understand that and we'll work with you on what's most important.
Tonya, I'd like to ask I have one thing that I'm concerned about, and I don't even know if this is valid or not, but, um, I'm concerned about specifically coming up here in 2025, these new laws relating to exempt employees and how that would impact the church. Um, and is there anything else that you can think of that churches should be preparing for or concerned about? And do you have some advice for them on that end?
Well, I'm not on our tax team, so I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on the taxes, but I will say I just saw a notice go out from our operations manager on FLMA and changes with that. And so our team is being educated on current trends and changes and updates in that way so that we can better be equipped to assist our clients. And we do have over 7,400 clients now nationwide in all of the states. So that does involve our tax team really being diligent to stay up on all of those things. That is a big concern, and also being able to, right, like you said, decide if they should be exempt or if their salary is too high or too low, and do we need to reclassify? That's been a lot. I've heard a lot of those conversations happening lately. The other concern that we've heard in the past year or two is also how now a lot of requirements in different states, especially on the West Coast, but even into New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, maybe spilling into in Georgia. I'm not quite sure about Georgia, but I know there's some in the area. Just overtime and break regulations and rules, and it's really good for the employee. I don't want to speak negatively about the regulations because they're needed for their sake, and it really is to protect the employee. But from an employer standpoint, it is a burden. It's kind of a stress because the fees are great if you're in violation of those regulations or just maybe innocently unaware, you're still bound to those regulations. And so we can help a church become informed so that they can realign and be in compliance. So they're not going to be hit with those hefty fines or fees or back taxes. Um, California is far away from where you are in Georgia, but they're the most extreme with their regulations. And we have for that and a couple of other states, we have a special template of tax information that goes into that client's account to make sure things are standardized and correct from the beginning. So that's what you're going to get with Ministry Works. It's really someone who is keeping up on things, helping folks stay in compliant. And we're going to be diligent because we do have those 7,400 clients that we have to be accountable to. So, yeah,
Is there
I feel
anything
like that's
out
a
there
big help to churches.
is there anything from your perspective? I don't know. We didn't ask this ahead of time, but maybe a way that if I'm a pastor in whatever state, to just know kind of what is the typical salary for myself, that zip code, that size church, or I hear this a good bit too. I'm hiring a staff member. I need to be competitive, but I got to be realistic. All those things. Is there anything I didn't ask you that? I don't want to throw you under the bus here. I was just curious. Benchmarking
No,
kind
I
of thing.
have been asked that before. That's really not an area that we've become
Okay.
experts in. It may be something more that Simple Ministry is more on the cusp of than we are. So we aren't giving salary recommendations because it is so specific to the church. Often the denomination headquarters is a good place to start for those type of
Yeah.
inquiries, and they can kind of guide you on what's kind of their focus and their approach to that within the
Sure.
industry, the
No problem. I'm just
denomination.
curious.
Yeah, no.
So if I'm a small church pastor and I realize I've got these issues, what would be the first step or two? I've got to be careful with what money I spend. Typically on these webinars, we've been asking if I only had $2,500 to spend to get started doing something, what would I do? That's going to be probably way overboard in some regard to payroll, but what would you recommend? Where do I just start if I want to start looking into this?
Sure. Well, actually, that's a great question. Our website is a great place to start. You can explore and do your own research there. There's a wealth of resources there. You can also check out our quick quote calculator, if I can say it.
And
I'm
go
going to
ahead and give
show
your
it to you
website right
here.
now as well.
And if you can see my screen here,
Yeah.
there's just a snippet of our quick calculator. This might be more staff than you have, but for example, just to give you a framework for 10 people paid twice a month, annually, you're looking at just over $1,000. And that's about $44 on average per payroll to get to that $1,000. And that's going to include full service payroll, all of your tax filing, quarterly 941s, W-2s, new hire reporting as well. The thing that cannot be calculated on this quick calculator on the website is additional products such as the time tracking solution with the mobile app and also the onboarding and offboarding functionalities on the HCM side, which is human capital management. That's what HCM stands for. So one thing to add though, real quick, that does come, we have enhanced our system to better serve our clients. And now our mobile app is even better and more functionable with a better user experience and user interface. So you're going to be able to check your paycheck stubs, see your pay history, and the employee is going to actually be able to make changes on withholdings by filling out a new W-4 form through the mobile app, or initiating a change in their direct deposit by filling out the form on the app. Now that does need a supervisor or admin super user to be able to approve that, of course, for security before it goes over to payroll. So that there is that safeguard, but it can be initiated by the employee through there. So those are great strides in automation that we've received just in the last few months here at Ministry Works. But back to your question, the website is a wealth of resources. You'll see the buttons on here. You can do the slide across to go 1 employee or 100 employees, and then choose your pay frequency, and it's going to give you those quick quotes. You can also request a quote. The upper orange button is going to give you a little form to fill out, just some basic information, and then our team will be able to reach out to you by phone and email, but you'll get a quote, more a written quote that you could present if you want and need one right away. The Talk to an Expert button at the bottom really just connects you directly to our account execs here in my team, and they'll be able to kind of go into further needs analysis if you have some specific questions. But we always love to talk to prospective clients at least once, just to get a feel, make sure that we are able to hear the need and see if we're able to be a good solution for them.
I don't, obviously we're not here just trying to sell things today, but I did ask
Right.
you to come on the program. But I'm
Yeah.
looking at it from a pastor standpoint. I don't know how in the world I could have 10 employees and only pay somebody $1,000 a year to work for me to do payroll. So, I mean, matter of fact,
Yes,
if they're
and
hiring, I need to know who they are. So that's a great. So to me, the value, but the peace of mind. A follow-up question I wanted to ask too, and this may be already said, but I think it'd be good to clarify. Obviously, you are Ministry Works. So do you only do payroll for 501c3, ministry, church, nonprofit, or what about for-profit, other companies that just like the fact that you are a ministry based? What does that look like?
yeah, no, I'm glad you asked, because we really serve 501c3 Christian non-for-profits.
Okay.
We do try to adhere to the Brotherhood's model and really focus on those who are on mission with us to build the kingdom for Christ. So we really do hold that true on the payroll side. But I will say, if you have a church, and we do have some churches that maybe have a for-profit coffee shop or a
Oh,
for-profit thrift store, we do help them when they're coupled together with that other entity that we serve. I know we have one church, and I won't say their name, but they have four different thrift stores that they have throughout the city. And they actually are my one client that loves to have the physical time clock. We don't offer that very often because most people love the mobile app or the kiosk version, but they have the physical clock and the badges, because they do work with folks who are coming out of some rough situations, and they're employing them, and they just need that accountability and have a higher turnover. So it's important to them. And so, but that's a situation where a church has like 4 different thrift stores, and I think they might be for profit. But anyway, mostly it's 501c3 Christian non-for-profits. But that could be churches, Christian schools, daycares, preschools. We have K through 12 schools. We have universities. And it's just growing because there is such a need. And in today's age, I just it just keeps being heavy on my heart. I think it's important for us to couple with folks who are aligned missionally and trying to grow the kingdom for Christ, because all the other voices around us are pulling for our attention. I just think it's really important to kind of bond together in that. That's why I love this collaboration with you and Michael, because it's just so important to have a firm foundation when you're serving others and sharing the gospel.
Yeah, I think we could all all on this call at least say we're all in the kingdom business and we happen to make a living by doing other things with it, you know. So
Right.
I appreciate you saying that. Michael, any follow-up questions before we start wrapping this up? Anything?
No, I would just emphasize that reps matter. And so when you have a single focus, it helps in almost any service to the church. When you're focused, you catch the nuance. It's less mistakes, and make that experience much better for the church. They do need a lot of help, and we recognize that you do. And so, you know, when you've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, or even thousands of churches in terms of ministry works, um, you know, it's a lot easier to identify mistakes and correct them quicker.
Yeah.
Well said, well said. And that's, I feel like where we are, we've come, when I started, we only had maybe 70 clients in just a couple of states locally here. Now we have over 7,000 and are providing all of these services in addition to payroll. And it's just so amazing to see what God's doing. And really, the need is there for just someone who understands what you're going through as the pastor of a church. Whether you have 50 in your pews or thousands in your pews, you still have to be accountable for those
Yeah.
ornery taxes that we have to pay. And so we can help you with that. So, and we have folks here that love doing it. And so they would love to help you.
You scared
Not
me.
everybody loves it.
Most pastors thought you were going to say honorary members, but you said honorary taxes. So
Ornery taxes,
I'm
yes.
glad you clarified that. That was really good.
Yes, no,
Well,
I'm not gonna, no, we love our congregants.
I'm just having fun. Well, if you're on the webinar today and you've stayed to this point, thank you. As we talked about payroll made simple, I hope you've gotten some really good ideas, tools, processes, whether or not you use Ministry Works or maybe there's another payroll company that you are familiar with and you want to use. But I do say, obviously, as Michael said, someone with the reps that has done this, been there, kingdom focused, over 7,000 churches, there's not a lot of question that they're going to do it right. But the big takeaway I hope you're going to take away is let's do it right. So whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing as a kingdom person, let's do it right and do it well. So, thank you, obviously, Michael, for co-hosting today, and thank you, Tonya, for being on. Just real quick, make sure that we go around the room real fast and tell us how to get in touch with you if they want to, or email, or whatever how you want to do that, and then Michael, and then I'll close us out.
Yes. Well, you can reach us at ministryworks.com if you'd like to check out the resources, get a quick quote, or connect and schedule a call with
Good.
myself or my team. We'd love to meet you. Feel free to email me direct, tmiller@ministryworks.com. I'd welcome that as well. But our number is 866-215-5540. And then you choose option 1 for the sales team. So we'd love to help you. And I can provide you with a slide if you'd like to as well.
Good.
Michael Campbell, ministrysure.com. Yeah, and my personal email is mike@ministrysure.com. It's a pleasure to connect and chat and try to help the church in the best way possible.
Well, at simpleministry.org is our website. Feel free to reach out there. We, from assessing your members, volunteers, putting them in the right roles, helping them to know how where they serve best, as well as we have some online platforms and things to help you to kind of run the day-to-day business, or not business, but the ministry side of what you do. And so that's what we do, and coaching and consulting. So we're just glad to have you on today. Thank you guys for being with us. And whatever happens, let's just keep the kingdom going and let's do our part to be make him known, right? Well, thanks a
That's
lot.
right. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You.